Hey, how's it going, everybody? I've been sitting on this topic for a while, but now that Minato's spin-off manga is out and we have a more complete picture of what he's capable of, I can finally give him the analysis I've always wanted to. I don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's start right away with what he's most well known for, his speed. So it's in this respect that Minato is pretty much the undisputed number one in the series, at least until you get into Six Paths characters. What we're told about Minato's shinobi skills over the course of the series is fairly inconsistent and can be a bit difficult to interpret, but one thing that every character who brings him up seems to agree on is that Minato was fast, and not just fast, one of the fastest ninja who ever lived. The series and supplementary material like the databooks imply just shy of outright saying that Minato is better at using Flying Raijin than Tobirama. And while I'm not going to say this next claim is definitive, I don't think this means his teleportation is faster than Tobirama's or something like that. I don't think that's how the jutsu even works. It's teleportation. It should be instant for both of them, and neither of them seem like they have to deal with any startup or end lag. But then again, at one point during the fight against Obito, Tobirama says that a doppelganger's Flying Raijin would be too slow for what he's trying to do. So maybe there is some level of variance in speed between users of the Flying Raijin, depending on how powerful they are, how much chakra they have or something, and maybe Minato's actually is faster than Tobirama's, but I think that the mastery of the jutsu that the series is highlighting, what makes his better than Tobirama's, is greater finesse. Minato's Flying Raijin seal is simpler than Tobirama's is, and it seems like he's able to create these seals more easily. His also appears to consume less chakra, though this is just conjecture based on the fact that he uses it more frequently than Tobirama does. He's also able to do things that Tobirama just can't with Flying Raijin, like the barrier that he uses to teleport the 9 Tails Biju Bomb and the 10 Tails Biju Bomb. Now, Minato's speedster status and reputation doesn't come exclusively from his ability to use this jutsu. Without it, he might not have his Yellow Flash nickname, he might not be as revered for his speed, but his skill with Shunshin, or Body Flicker, the basic jutsu that all ninja in the world of Naruto use to move at high speeds, is both said to be and demonstrated to be among the best in the series. Minato managed to save Naruto from Obito from all the way across the room, and the way the scene is drawn and paneled, it looks like Obito didn't even notice what had happened until after Minato was already holding Naruto. Minato was also the first of the Hokage to arrive on the battlefield with Madara, Obito, and the Ten Tails, despite the fact that there were no Flying Raijin kunai anywhere nearby. The idea that he was able to do this through raw speed alone is supported almost immediately after it happens, first by Hiruzen calling attention to Minato's speed, and second by Tobirama admitting that his Shunshin, or Body Flicker, is inferior to Minato's. In the Viz translation, Tobirama says here that Minato's better at teleporting than he is, which makes this a bit confusing because he's not talking about Flying Raijin, he's talking about Body Flicker, which is referred to as teleportation, or more formally, the art of teleportation in the Viz translation of Naruto's manga. Minato's reaction and combat speed is also close to, if not at the top of the non-Six Paths characters, which is one of the things that makes his ability to teleport so formidable. He seems to have a good level of spatial awareness at all times as well, so he's able to act with remarkable precision and agility in the window immediately before and after he teleports. During his fight with A and B in the Third Great Ninja War, particularly the famous scene where he avoids a full speed attack from A, he doesn't just teleport out of the way. And in case you forgot, he also, in a very brief, and I want to stress, extremely brief window, throws a kunai he's holding past A, teleports to a different kunai he threw at the beginning of the fight, back to the kunai he just threw, then reacts to a surprise attack from B, cuts B's 8 Tails tentacle in half, and plants a Flying Raijin seal on what's left of the tentacle, all before either A or B can do anything to him. While I'm sure that A got faster in the 21 years between his fight with Minato and his fight with Naruto, the series frames it as if it's trying to compare Naruto's speed to Minato's just as much as it's trying to compare it to A's. And the thing is, not only did Naruto not do anything extra or fancy the way Minato did by throwing his kunai and then teleporting back to it and all that stuff, this is also Jonin Minato before he became Hokage. Minato is also the only person who ever managed to bypass Kamui through sheer speed. Other people have managed to hit Obito, like Konin, Torune got some bugs on him, Kakashi was able to use Kamui to get Naruto to land some hits on him, but none of these people were able to move so fast that Obito couldn't react by using Kamui in time. Minato's the only person in the series to do it. The best demonstration of his reaction speed, though, was after Guy opened the 8th gate and started fighting Six Paths Madara. Minato teleported in between both of them, blocked Madara's truth-seeking orbs, and teleported out of the way before Guy would have slammed into him. In theory, after being reanimated, he should be even faster using using Ninetales Chakra Mode, but it's a little hard to tell if this is actually the case or if the form just gives him more chakra to work with. The reason I say this is because Minato spent pretty much all of his time in Ninetales Chakra Mode nerfed in one way or another. When he first started using Ninetales Chakra, it was to help the other 3 Hokage create a barrier to keep the Ten Tails trapped. Initially, he left his real body there while his clone fought Obito. His clone was obviously weaker than his real body, and like I mentioned earlier, Tobirama said something about clone Flying Raijin being slower than regular Flying Raijin or whatever. By the time his real body entered the battle, he'd found out that Obito was the masked man who attacked the Leaf Village 17 years ago, and this mentally devastated him. If you reread or rewatch the fight, it's pretty clear that for a good chunk of time after this happens, Minato isn't all the way there. The 4th databook even has a statement about this exactly, actually. It says that Naruto, quote, cheers Minato up from his stupor, and with language like this, I think it's pretty clear that the databook is implying that Minato's mental state was so bad it was affecting his ability to fight. Minato's half of the Ninetales even seemed to notice this. In the middle of the fight, he pulled Minato aside. He was like, hey man, look, you gotta relax. Kushina's death, this Obito business, it wasn't your fault. Because of this, you have stuff like the moment where Tobirama is able to rescue Minato from being blown up by one of Obito's truth-seeking orbs, despite the fact that just a few chapters before this, Tobirama said Minato was faster than he was. Since I know that there are going to be at least a handful of people who are going to try to point this out as evidence that Tobirama isn't just faster than Minato, but way faster than Minato, so much faster that even when Minato uses Ninetales Chakra Mode, he's still faster, I'd also like to point out a couple of other things about what happened here that make this an unfair comparison. Not only was Minato's mind clouded by all of this Obito business, but also, the truth-seeking orb was attached to Minato's real body, and just before this happened, Minato found out that his Flying Raijin mark on Obito had disappeared, so he couldn't teleport back to him. Tobirama explains that he didn't teleport this truth-seeking orb away, it was one of his clones, and also that earlier in the fight, he'd planted his own Flying Raijin seal on Obito. So there are 2 reasons Minato couldn't have even tried to do the same thing that Tobirama did. First, even if he teleported to one of his kunai, the truth-seeking orb would have just blown up and killed him. And second, he couldn't teleport back to Obito in an attempt to at least damage him or something, because he didn't have a Flying Raijin mark on Obito anymore. Anyway, he should at least be as fast as Biju Sage Mode Naruto, since the 2 of them were able to act in perfect sync when attacking Obito with a conjoined Rasengan. This is pretty much the only time we see Ninetales Chakra Mode Minato at what I'd assume is full power, though. It happens right after Naruto snaps him out of his trance of self-doubt, but right before Naruto starts fighting Obito with Sasuke, which itself happens right before Minato loses his half of the Ninetales. So it's hard to say how much, if at all, this form affects his speed, especially because Minato wasn't as proficient at using it yet as Naruto was, but if it had the same effects on him as it had on Naruto, then Minato should be basically untouchable in Ninetales Chakra Mode. Now, since I cleared up that confusion, hopefully, about Tobirama allegedly being faster than Minato, let me also address some claims that people, albeit way less frequently, make that the Raikage is about as fast as Minato. This idea comes from 2 statements, predominantly. One from C during the 5 Kage Summit, where he says that A's nerve transmission and reaction speed are both on par with Konoha's Yellow Flash, and second, a databook statement which says that A's speed is, quote, not inferior to the Yellow Flash. So for the first one, C is just wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If you look at his age as given in the Naruto databooks and compare it to the Naruto timeline, you'll find that C was a small child during the time of the Third Great Ninja War when Minato was serving. There's just no way he knew how fast Minato actually was, and what makes this even weirder is that he commends the members of Taka, specifically Sasuke, for being able to fight against the Raikage despite his allegedly Minato-level reaction speeds. But later on in the story, A never mentions Sasuke. Keep in mind, this is the same guy who took his arm with Amaterasu, but A doesn't have anything to say about how much he respected Sasuke or anything like that. When he's talking to Naruto about Minato, though, it's a completely different story. As far as Minato's abilities go, the Raikage has nothing but praise for him. He straight up says he came to believe no one could defeat Minato, that there would never be a shinobi who came along to surpass him, and also says that ever since Minato died, he, as in A, has been the fastest shinobi in the world. But he clearly makes that distinction, which also kind of serves to discredit the databook statement about A's speed being not inferior to the Yellow Flash, whatever that means. But to be fair, this one's a bit more believable because it could just mean that as of Shippuden, that version of A, like the Raikage, is faster than the Jonin version of Minato that he fought back in the Third Great Ninja War. It's still doubtful because after Naruto dodges his attack by, being faster than him, A compares him to Jonin Minato, not Hokage Minato. He thinks back to his first fight against Minato in the Third Great Ninja War. So you can definitely disregard all that stuff that C said, but for the second statement, the one that comes from the data book, that one might be true, but if it is, it's definitely not talking about Hokage Minato. So to conclude the speed section, there's no reason to assume Minato isn't the fastest non-Six Paths character in the series. His body flicker is shown to be superior to that of all of the other Hokage, including Hashirama, who fought Madara, who reacted to an attack from Nine-Tails Chakra Mode Naruto. And this wasn't KCM-1 Naruto, this was like Kurama Link Mode KCM-2 Naruto, who Madara casually blocked an attack from. Now, it'd be a little crazy to say he's faster than or even close to as fast as the Six Paths characters in base anyway, because he did try to attack Six Paths Madara with the Rasengan and even got the drop on him, teleported in front of him and everything, and it didn't work. He got embarrassed pretty badly, actually. But he is still able to observe and accurately react to Six Paths level attacks. And Nine-Tails Chakra Mode, he should probably be even faster than this, but it's a little bit unclear. Since, his whole gimmick is teleporting, the Nine-Tails might not make that any faster. And to be fair, we don't really get to see KCM Minato at like full tilt pretty much ever. So before the recent one-shot dropped, in this category, I would have said Minato is fairly impressive, but not exceptionally so. But now that the chapter's out, we have both a pretty major new statement and a pretty major new feat to work with. Minato is able to overpower a tailed beast bomb from the Nine-Tails with his Rasengan. This wasn't some evenly matched exchange or anything either. You can see, if you look closely, that Minato is actually advancing on Kurama, and Kurama's being pushed back. Keep in mind, this was teenage Minato that did this. This happened long before he was put in charge of his own team, which itself happened long before he became Hokage. Of course, there are a few things I should point out. Like, first, Minato didn't fight Kurama in the flesh, he fought him inside of Kushina's seal. Speaking of Kushina, she was also using her chains to suppress Kurama's power, but there are a couple things I'd like to point out about these details. Even though it was just an astral projection of Minato fighting a similar manifestation of Kurama inside of Kushina, Naruto fought the Nine-Tails under the same circumstances, except Naruto only fought half of the Nine-Tails. Here, Minato was fighting the entire thing. As for Kushina's chains, these were also a factor during Naruto's fight against Kurama, but there's something in the chapter that implies they were a lot less potent here than they were there. Earlier in the chapter, Kushina uses these chains to restrain two of her bodyguards, and one of them says that the chains seem to become more powerful with each passing year. Now, we should probably assume that this statement doesn't apply to the 16 years she spent sealed inside Naruto, but even in that case, quite a bit of time passes between this chapter and the time of her death. So not only was the Kurama that Naruto fought at half power, he was also being restrained by much more powerful chains than the ones Kushina was using to help Minato. On top of that, while this clash was happening, Minato was being impaled by version 2 cloak Kushina. Now, before I move on, this doesn't mean anything. Don't be like, oh, Minato's a fraud because he got hit by Kushina, because first of all, Kushina could just be really strong, and second of all, he obviously wasn't fighting to kill Kushina, and he couldn't move out of the way of the attack anyway, which he explains to Kurama, because if he did, he'd have to release the sealing jutsu he was trying to use to keep Kurama from taking over Kushina's body. But anyway, as I was saying, when he clashed his Rasengan against Kurama's Biju Bomb, he had a hole in his torso. So he was probably at least mildly weaker because of that, I'd say. And even if you're skeptical of the idea that Minato truly could create a Rasengan on par with a Nine-Tails tailed beast bomb because of the astral projection thing and because his power was being suppressed by Kushina, you do have to admit he should at least be way stronger, because again, full Nine-Tails, weaker Kushina chains, than Naruto was when he fought Kurama at the Waterfall of Truth. And that Naruto was marginally stronger, at least, than the version of Naruto that fought Pain. Now, personally, I think he's stronger than that version of Naruto was beyond compare, because Naruto was chucking volleys of shadow clones carrying Odama Rasengan enhanced by Sage Jutsu at Kurama, and Kurama was eating it all. But Minato just made one Rasengan, threw it in Kurama's face, and then bam, the fight was over. Kushina was safe. Keep in mind, again, this was also teenage Minato, far from his prime. Kurama also says something just a bit before this in the one-shot chapter that I find, as a Minato fan, extremely interesting. When Minato begins sealing Kurama to stop him from taking Kushina's body over, Kurama says, I'm gonna quote this directly from the Viz translation of the chapter, "A most powerful shinobi ranking alongside first Hokage Hashirama. Unbelievable." Now, in case you don't believe me, in case you think the scan on screen right now is fake or something, I'll leave a link to the chapter on Viz's official website in the description so you can check for yourself and keep me honest. I swear this is actually what Kurama says in the chapter. And I mean, like, this isn't some no-name or somebody who only tangentially knows who Hashirama is. Kurama fought him with Madara. Maybe he's just talking about Minato's prowess with sealing jutsu, but Hashirama's not really that well known for that. On the same page, he brings up the Uzumaki clan, so you'd think if you wanted an effective comparison to somebody who's really, really good at using sealing jutsu, who would have just said Minato's as good as the best of the Uzumaki clan. I've also looked into this somewhat thoroughly to make sure that we didn't get a bad translation or something, but in the Viz translation, like I showed, and in every major fan translation I could find online, Kurama refers to Minato's overall, like, holistic ninja abilities. In some translations, for example, Kurama says that Minato is a shinobi of the same caliber as Hashirama, but none of them specifically focus on any one area. None of them even seem to imply that they're trying to. So it seems to be a holistic statement, talking about Minato's overall abilities. The only way I can think of to argue against the idea that this means he's, like, as strong as Hashirama, even as as a teenager, is to say that Kurama means he has the same level of potential, or shows the same level of potential as Hashirama did, and that he'll go on to become as strong as Hashirama was once he reaches maturity. And I don't necessarily disagree with this interpretation, but you pretty much have to extrapolate that. It's nowhere on the page. Nothing in the whole chapter actually implies that that's what Kurama means. It's not really at odds with the rest of the series, or even with the rest of the chapter. Like I said, later on in the same chapter, Minato is able to stop Kurama's tailed beast bomb with a single Rasengan, and there's other stuff spread throughout the series that implies Minato's this strong as well. A basic example is that he was able to cut through one of the Eight Tails tentacles during his fight with A and B in the Third Great Ninja War, but a much crazier one, and one that's admittedly less direct or concrete, is after Naruto deflects 5 tailed beast bombs at once during his, Kakashi's, Guy's, and B's fight with Obito, Kakashi has a moment where he mistakes Naruto for Minato. The implication here being that Minato probably could have done the same thing, and, you know, he probably could, seeing as he's able to teleport one of the 9 Tails tailed beast bombs pretty casually during Obito's attack on the Hidden Leaf Village, and later is able to seemingly just as casually teleport away a tailed beast bomb from the 10 Tails. I'll also take this opportunity to mention that Hiruzen seemed noticeably more afraid of Orochimaru summoning Minato than he was of Orochimaru summoning Hashirama or Tobirama, or in fact both of them at the same time. When the two Senju brothers got summoned, Hiruzen clearly wasn't happy about it, but when Orochimaru even threatened to summon Minato, Hiruzen's attitude completely changed. He was like, I cannot let the third coffin get summoned. So you know. Now, there are things you can find throughout the series at odds with the idea that Minato was ever as strong as Hashirama was. Like, Kabuto straight up said that no one has ever come along to surpass him. So, like, if I'm being honest and not a Minato hype beast, Minato probably doesn't have anything he could throw out that hits as hard as Hashirama. I think that, you know, that should be obvious. Hashirama has the giant 1,000-arm Buddha statue. Minato has, like, frog summons and Rasengan. What I will say, though, is Kabuto didn't personally know both Minato and Hashirama, but Hiruzen and Kurama both did, so maybe their statements were a little bit more credible. In all seriousness though, Minato probably doesn't have anything in his arsenal with the same firepower as Hashirama's most powerful attacks, but he's still pretty strong. With the recent one-shot, you can re-examine a lot of other things that have happened throughout the series, and I don't think it's unreasonable to come to the conclusion that Minato is, Six Paths characters aside, one of the hardest hitting characters in the series. Though we don't get to see him use much of it for reasons I explained in the speed section. When he uses Ninetales Chakra Mode, he should be quite a bit stronger than he is in base, as demonstrated when he and Naruto make this turbo-sized mega super duper Rasengan to throw into Obito, which I think pretty safely assume is more powerful than his regular Rasengan is. Naruto also seemed to receive a noticeable boost to his stats when he first entered Ninetales Chakra Mode. I think a good demonstration of this is what he was able to do to Kisame. So I think it's reasonable to assume that in the same form, Minato should also hit quite a bit harder. I'll keep this part short since I already talked about Minato's ninjutsu a bit in the previous two sections. I'll also go ahead and say at the beginning of this section that I'm not going to spend any time in this video talking about Minato's skills with Genjutsu or Taijutsu because he doesn't have any notable feats with either to speak of. Now then, Minato's skill in this regard is exceptional. I don't think he's a standout among the first four Hokage when it comes to his aptitude for ninjutsu, since they were all pretty skilled at it in one way or another, but what I will say is he definitely clears the bar that they set for him in this respect. According to Book 4, he can use fire, wind, and lightning style, but he doesn't seem to prefer to because we never see him do it. Still, despite the fact that we never see him use any changes in chakra nature, he has a pretty varied ninjutsu suite. He's a skilled shadow clone user and learned to summon the toads of Mount Miyaboku, even including Gamabunta from Jiraiya. He also created the Rasengan and mastered Hiraishin, but I already talked about both of these pretty extensively. What I haven't talked about yet is Minato's skill with Fuinjutsu or Sealing Jutsu. This is where Minato truly excels, in my opinion, even compared to the other Hokage. Minato is probably the best user of sealing in the entire series based on what's shown. He's a master of flying Raijin who is able to develop the jutsu further than even Tobirama could. Even as a teenager, his skill with sealing jutsu was enough to impress Kurama, and I mean, he's just able to do some really crazy stuff, like of a different nature than anyone we've ever seen. With no preparation or anything, he was able to just touch Kushina's nine-tail seal, then project himself into it so that he could beat Kurama to stop him from taking Kushina over. What he did with Naruto and the nine-tail specifically is insane. He was able to split it in half, seal one half in himself, one half in Naruto, and as part of the same sealing jutsu, seal a portion of his consciousness and Kushina in Naruto together with the Nine Tails. Then also program the same seal to steadily weaken over time, causing more and more of Kurama's chakra to leak out so that Naruto would be able to access it more easily. Now what's even crazier is, as I'm sure many of you remember, during Naruto's fight with Pain, when Naruto almost let out the entire Nine Tails, the fragment of his consciousness that Minato put in there with the Nine Tails was able to sew the seal back up and stop it from taking Naruto over. But again, this wasn't Minato. This was a part of himself that he'd sealed in Naruto, and that part was able to fix up the seal that put him in there in the first place. I don't even know how he did that. The contract seal he used on Obito let him remove the Nine Tails from Obito's control, and he was able to put this on Obito by just tapping him. This didn't look like it required any prep from him or anything. And now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure the seal stopped him from controlling the Nine Tails, like, forever. Obito waited a pretty long time to go after Naruto, and the team he sent to capture Naruto included Itachi, somebody with a Mangekyo Sharingan who might have been able to control the Nine Tails before it could be sealed in the statue. In the war, Minato also points out that the flying Raijin mark never disappears, so the contract seal might work the same way, and if that's the case, that's pretty insane. He also knew at least one jutsu that even Orochimaru didn't recognize, which was the Reaper Death Seal. So again, like I said, in terms of sealing jutsu, Minato's the real deal, probably the best in the series. This is only tangentially related to his power and has more to do with Minato's overall quality as a ninja, so I'll keep this section short too. Here, I'm just going to give some examples of Minato's intellectual and tactical prowess, and I'll let you guys form your own conclusions about how smart you think he is. At least as late as when Itachi took the Chunin exams, Minato had the record for the highest written test score in the entire Leaf Village. And Itachi didn't beat this record, by the way. He got second place right behind Minato. Minato also saw Kakashi use the Chidori one one time and was able to identify exactly what was wrong with it. Later, and more impressively, after interacting with Obito for like a few seconds, he was able to figure out the gist of how Kamui works, and furthermore, how to beat it. He also close to single-handedly came up with a plan that he, Kakashi, Gaara, and Lee all put into use to help Guy fight Six Paths Madara. Oh, also, unrelated to his intelligence, just something I forgot to put in the video earlier. He can use Sage Mode, too. He claims that he's not good at it, but this just isn't true, because he's at least better at using it than Jiraiya, since he doesn't get deformed, he doesn't get any frog-like features. He looks just like Naruto when he's in Sage Mode, so, you know, there's that too, I guess.